I'm a new Genshin player and I got both Skirk and Escaffier at level 80. Would you recommend me getting Lauma and Nefer, or maybe Mavuika and someone else for my second team? I got to floor 12 with a level 60 Kuting team as my second one, mixed with Escaffier, but I would like something stronger. Big fan of your YouTube videos. Welcome, Carco99. I hope you're having a good day today. I will say it doesn't matter too much when it comes to Abyss. Generally, even with the shill in Abyss, if you go for one of the like actual meta teams, even when the content isn't like particularly favorable to it, you should still be fine. So, shill aside, how does Mavuika compare to Nefer? Both Mavuika and Nefer are characters that have some layer of skill expression that manifests in different ways. With Nefer, it's relatively straightforward in that the way you min-max Nefer is by understanding your rotations well and making sure that you are... Because Nefer's skill is a 9-second cooldown and you have 2 of them. You want to make sure that you're getting through your 6 charge attacks and all of your supports abilities in 18 seconds. If it's more than 18 seconds, you start losing DPS, and it can actually add up to a good amount. But even if you lose that DPS, generally, you're not losing, like, the majority of your damage. It's like, your team that could be performing at, like, 160k DPS, say, will instead perform at, like, 130. One of the biggest issues with Nefer isn't necessarily the potential for the damage not to work out, like, because of skill issue, basically. It's external factors. Mainly, one, the team by default doesn't have great sustain. Your sustain options kind of suck. The good sustain options are 5 stars, and if you have to pull for one extra character to get your sustain, then you would be able to get one extra constellation on your Mavuika team that already has a sustain instead, if you're comparing them 1-to-1, right? Or start working on your third team, since you already have one team, but no second one, right? You're starting on your second team, you'll get to your third team eventually. That's the first potential issue. The second potential issue is that you're heavily reliant on one specific reaction, which means that there's a lot of ways that enemies can counter you. It hasn't really been too much of a problem because since Nefer's release, we have been in Nodcry, and the shill that we've had is shill that is favorable to Nefer. But we're about to leave Nodcry. Why is Nevided on a twin Nephrite? Okay. So, very often, enemies will have innate aura on them. And one of the biggest issues with Nefer is that there's a lot of innate auras that fuck her over completely. Right? Usually, you look at a character like Mavuika, because of Mavika's relative team flexibility, you can, unless the enemy is immune to Pyro, you'll find a use for Mavuika. You'll be able to get a Mavuika clear, most likely. With Nefer, obviously, if the enemy is immune to Dendro, there's the same problem. So for that, they're the same. But on top of that, if the enemy has an innate Pyro aura, you won't be able to get Lunar Blooms, and Nefer is just completely worthless. One of the biggest issues for a new player is that when you look at, like, starting from having nothing, that's when the cost system matters. Like, longtime players will often dismiss the cost system as being kind of fake because it gives certain characters an advantage that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality of accounts. But the reason the cost system often doesn't reflect the reality of accounts is because accounts are old. And when Farina came out, she was a lot better than she is now. So a lot of people went for her, even though on a Farina rerun in 2026, she's not really all that worth it. And so for long-time players, a team requiring Farina is less of a cost than for new players. Because for new players, that means they have to pull for another character. And if that character isn't that strong in the current meta, then it's +1 cost, basically. If you have to pull them only for that one team. With Nefer, the team is effectively only decided by the 3 premium characters, right? Nefer, Lauma, Columbina. If you have Nefer by herself, she's pretty bad. Nefer plus Lauma is pretty solid. And Nefer, Lauma, and Columbina is very good and much more comfortable to play. Seeing people saying they die with Nefer a lot just shows how bad these people are, because how are y'all dying a lot when she's played with dash cancels? I mean, there's some enemies where that doesn't matter. Right, like Crab, for example. The Pyro Crab. Like, he just leaves shit on the ground. You die to standing inside of the AoE. It's a fight that lasts 2 minutes. If you have no sustain whatsoever, the field on the ground that deals a bit of damage over time will kill you. And there's also some attacks that can't be dash iframe sometimes that are really annoying. Like the plunge local legends. The plunge local legends shockwave. Like the pew pew pew. You can't dash iframe that. Even if you dash through it, it just deals damage to you. I remember doing Abyss on someone's account with Nefer against that, and it was very painful. Anyways, getting back to what I was saying. The Nefer team is 3 5-star characters. Mavuika is a lot more nuanced than that, because one of Mavuika's great teams is Overload with Chaleurs. And, well, that's a team that is all 4 stars, other than Mavuika. But where the constellations on the 4 stars matter a lot. And if all your 4 stars are C0, your team is going to do, like, basically half the damage. It's a bit more than half, but still. It's a pretty big difference between all the 4 stars being C0 and all the 4 stars being C6. And so when it comes to evaluating for a new account the value of Mavuika, a pretty important factor is what your account looks like before you decide to pull for her, and also what the banner is, right? That's part of why that Varessa banner was so good, right? The Varessa banner that had Eon-san and Chaleurs on it was really, really good, because if you were to compare, like, again, not necessarily the case anymore with the sheer speed of the power creep with Zabai, but at least back then, right? One cost Varessa with C0 Eon-san won't be too good, sure. But if you want to make a meta team for Nefer, you'll have to go 2 to 3 cost anyways, and if you compare that to Varessa, if you are investing the same amount of primos, you'll end up with C2 Varessa and C6 Eon-san. And then the team will just be better, right? And so for those things, it really depends on what you want on your account, right? If you're someone who says, okay, I don't want constellations at all. I'm opposed to the way that gacha games use, like, paid... Like, I'm opposed to the pay-to-win nature of 5-star character constellation, and I don't want to get any of them on my account. Then getting a character like Mavuika might be a little bit less appealing, because her 4-star teams rely so heavily on the constellation level of your 4 stars. And being able to go for the guaranteed nature of characters whose premium team is all 5-star characters, or 3 5-star characters plus a 4-star whose cons don't matter, like Nefer, that might be what you prefer. You can still do something similar with Mavuika, with the Mavuika Melt teams. But the reality is that right now, that's kind of just weaker. Like, Mavuika Melt with Shilonen is kind of just weaker than the Lunar teams. And it's way harder to play. So it's a little... eh. But yeah, so I think the best way to evaluate it is, like, if you really, really don't want to get constellations no matter what, the 5-star characters that are reliant on 4-star cons might be a little bit less appealing, because you won't be able to guarantee those 4-star cons, because you won't keep going after you got the C0. But otherwise, generally those characters will tend to overperform the others with the same amount of primo gems spent. My Mavuika Melt with C0 or 1 gets to 145k sustain with Shilonen, and I don't have Eon-san. Yeah, and like that's not bad, but it's not Lunar. Like, my Mavuika Melt with Serpent Spine is, I think, at, like, on the Shilonen team, is at 145k as well. But the reality is that like my Zabai with the same amount of 5 stars is 50% ahead. It's at 210. Yeah. I feel like your opinion about Nefer changed positively. Like, she got better with Columbina, but also, like, I don't really think going for Nefer just in general is worth it over going for Zabai if you don't really like Nefer. But it's not like you can't do it. Like, you can. 145k is not low. What are y'all talking about? I mean, the fact that I need pretty min-max combos to get to 145k in that team, and you could give Nick a KQM standard Flynn's team and basically reach the same amount, is pretty meaningful. Like, it does make the 145k look pretty underwhelming. Okay, maybe not Nick and KQM standard. Maybe only one of the two. Is Linnea a good pull without Zabai? Yes and no. Like, if you exclude Zabai from the equation entirely and you compare Linnea teams to other meta teams that aren't the Zabai ones, Linnea is actually not that bad. Like, the Linnea Columbina teams for other geo carries aren't that far behind other meta things right now. The problem is, other meta things right now are so incredibly far behind Zabai that I do not expect that to stay the case for very long.